Hey everybody, this is AI with Dr. Craig Hansen. I'm delighted to have Brett with us this morning. Hi Brett.
Good morning. Good morning. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for giving us your time. Why don't you give us a little bit of your history of how you got to be where you are doing amazing things with AI?
Yeah, I think like many, it was a product of necessity. Um, I started this new company where I have a team of fractional CMOs within the last couple of years. And this is actually my second company. My first one was a marketing agency that I grew in over a 13-year period, grew it quite aggressively. We were the fastest growing private company in the US for a little while, and sold it a couple of years ago. And so when I started this new company, which was around 2020, I wanted to add people that were focused on delivering excellence to our clients, to our marketplace, to our friends and our fans and our loved ones. But I didn't want to have to build the operation that I had built, before, of lots of people, lots of overhead, and lots of operational things. So I turned to AI and I asked myself, how can I build a business where I think AI first? And it's not the goal to replace people, but how can I be more efficient, stay small and stay nimble, and decide where to really, juice up and juice down the growth. And so I put together this AI first leadership thinking for my organization. I came up with 9 AI first leadership thinking principles. And what's really cool is I've now been traveling around, several different states in the US, speaking to CEO groups, talking about how they can deploy AI using these 9 AI first leadership thinking principles.
And how's that been received?
Pretty good. From everything from, initially when I, am scheduled to meet with the CEOs, they tend to say, well, should I bring my IT person with me? My response is, this is a people thing, not a technology thing. But if your IT
Love it.
person will get benefit, that's great. But this is on you, CEO. This is on you, principal. This is on you, founder. And so I think that's the idea of what I do is, the other way I could say is transformation, but with an AI. So transformation is how it's spelled out. And it really is about changing the organization around a person, changing the organization led by a principal, led by, a founder or an owner, to really help them deploy that throughout the entire organization or their entire team.
Fantastic. Schools in New Zealand are grappling with how they might harness AI for administration, for teaching and learning and assessment, for students to personalize their learning. I think the leadership piece is so incredibly important. So if you wouldn't mind sharing some of your principles or all of them, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I think definitely, and happy to go through the top to bottom here, and just we'll hit on them, and if there's some specific questions you've got, Greg, we'll definitely dive into that. The
Thank you.
first one is setting the tone. And this is something that I think leaders, principals, really need to do a better job of doing, which is we are either going to watch others learn and adapt to AI so we don't make the mistakes, or when we want to be first to it, or we want to, make sure that we are testing it, but in a safe space. So setting that tone is really important, and it needs to happen from the principal, from the leader, from the team leader, or someone assigned to really take on that AI initiative. And it's important to think of it not as a technology play, but as a change management or an organizational change process or play. The second one is build the playground. Make sure that people have a safe space where they can practice, they can test, they can, play with prompts, they can do all kinds of things in a safe space where they can make mistakes by design, learn from the mistakes by design, educate and iterate, and share that within the organization. That playground, there's a lot of different ways to build a playground. Um, one school of thought is that if you really are adopting AI, you choose the tool that you want to use for your day-to-day operations with AI, but you use a different tool and a paid version, so your stuff stays private, that you use that as a playground. And so you can really play around and learn multiple platforms because we're still really early on and there's a lot more platforms that will be coming into place, a lot more LLMs, right? Large language models that will come to place that help, build that database of insights and information. The third thing is really embracing agility and adaptability. And what I mean by that is AI is going to change very fast. What we
Right.
learned this week is outdated next week. And unfortunately or fortunately, it really is moving that quickly. So how can you as an organization, make sure that you're embracing the learning organization principles and using that to really help you out? And so a great example of this is gamifying, the learning process within an organization. So I sometimes wear a t-shirt and it says like, show me your prompts. And the idea of showing your prompts to show your understanding of a topic or a subject is really important. Also, when you get that result you want, sharing those prompts internally within your
Mm,
organization really helps things along. I learned about this because I was actually out to dinner with my friend and his wife, who is a school teacher, and we got into the topic of AI, like, I do in a lot of different scenarios. And she was talking about how evil AI is, and she has to use technology to see if something turned in was AI created or not.
right.
And I told her, I didn't judge, I didn't question, I'm glad I'm not in the academic world as AI is coming out because there really are a lot of interesting challenges to it. But I said to her, I told her the story of something I learned at a Google conference where one of the Google fellows is also the professor of AI at, I believe, Stanford or somewhere in California. It was either Stanford or Caltech, I can't remember. And he's teaching people how to become doctors of AI, right? So he's getting people to do, the thesis on
Oh,
AI. So the natural question was, do you want your students to use AI to write their doctoral thesis? And, it's an interesting question. He said, honestly, they should be in some form or fashion, but they also need to show me their thought process that went into it, which is what the prompts are. It is asking the right questions and getting the right answers. That's also going to lead into something I call Generation AI, and I'll talk about that at the end. And Dr. Craig, if you can remind me to talk about Generation AI at the end. But
shall do.
embraceability and adaptability is really sharing those prompts so we can understand how we ask better questions to the large language models.
Can I just interject on that? I found a Facebook group. It was about DALI and just sharing the prompts. And that's the whole purpose of the Facebook group. It's got
Yep.
over 10,000 members and people are just posting their pictures. And the prompt is the requirement of being in the group. And I found that so incredibly helpful to take a prompt, then
Yeah.
edit it. And I found some websites where I can upload a picture and it will reverse engineer what the prompt should be to create it. And I found it really, really helpful in my own personal learning by seeing the prompts, dissecting them, and seeing if I can achieve something similar or different. It's powerful.
You're definitely hitting on something that I find to be very important and that I share with the people that I present to is, showing the prompts and understanding the prompts and getting more sophisticated and more in depth with the prompts, will help get better answers or outputs or things that you're asking for. We are all going to become prompt engineers, whether we want to or not. Um, yeah, absolutely. So the next thing I share is, the fourth point is leverage the speed of innovation. You don't necessarily need to become an AI, expert or guru or mastermind or a magical prompt engineer yourself. A lot of the tools we use, a lot of the software that we use, a lot of the cloud applications we use, they are all embedding AI into their tools. So let them do some of the heavy lifting and maybe even challenge the vendors that you use for different types of, applications to embed more AI into their tools. Otherwise, maybe, you go find somebody else that has a better uh, roadmap or strategy around AI. The other way to leverage AI, and I'll give an example, I come from the marketing world, and you know, uh, SEO, search engine optimization is a very big thing for marketers. And there are companies that do a ton of content writing for the purposes of SEO, search engine
Mm,
optimization. They're using AI now, which is great. They should be. And they're leveraging it to help build the content and build the SEO strategy. But they should also be passing on some of those cost savings to their clients. And so I push on people to push on the vendors to say, look, if you're saving a ton of money, let's share in that savings so you have better relationships with your vendors and better cost economics
mm,
on tools that you might be using. The next one is really probably something that this group is going to understand and maybe understand it quite a bit better than myself, but understanding the ethical responsibilities with AI.
right.
A tool can be good, a tool can be bad. A hammer in the right hands is an incredibly useful tool to build things. A hammer in the wrong hands can destroy a lot of different things. And so understanding, teaching the responsibility and that AI should follow the journey of responsibility is very important because it's going to become so easy to move away from, thinking responsibly if we're not already thinking ethically responsible to begin with. AI will just accelerate the speed of the good things and accelerate the speed of the bad things.
Mm,
So we have to be better at understanding
yeah.
and monitoring for what those things are. The next one is an interesting one, powering your data and using generative AI to power your data. Again, I'm somewhat of a, I'm a business owner, and so my ability to understand analytics and data has come from me running a business for many years. But as a classically trained marketer, who is not, a data first marketing type person, understanding data and understanding analytics is kind of a foreign language to me. I can understand parts of it, but I can't understand the whole thing and really feel like I have a good
Mm,
conversation. But now I upload data that I need analyzed into, I'm using several tools right now. I use ChatGPT, I use Proximity, and I also use Gemini from Google. But I upload the data and ask it to give me their analysis of
mm,
what does it mean and what should I be looking out for and what are the red flags. And it tells me, and it looks at the data in a way that I never have had. I just don't have that data science capability in my brain. And so it does a lot of that for me and it powers me to understand the data in a better way. And so that one's huge, especially because that's for me, that's a weakness that I've now been able to turn into a strength using the power of AI. The seventh one, as we're heading on our journey of these 9 steps, and bear with me, there's 3 left, but I promise they're pretty good. Um, you know, building customer-centric AI applications. And this isn't necessarily the right thing for all audiences, but and it doesn't mean that you replace people when you're trying to help others. It does mean that you can help people be more efficient and effective, leveraging AI to
mm,
help with prompts and to help with knowledge bases and knowledge exchange. It makes it more approachable for people who would rather not get on the phone and talk to someone from a customer-centric application. So there's a lot of things that can be done there. The eighth thing that I think from an education perspective, um, we should be telling all of our students, we should be telling all of the world is trust but verify everything.
right.
AI is good, but AI still hallucinates,
Right.
meaning it can make up some things. And you see that in images where you try to get the images to present text, and it either makes up a word that's incorrect, or it creates these foreign symbols that might have been from planet Krypton and Superman. But it can do these like really hallucinating things, both with content and with design, and probably with videos as we get more into Sora from OpenAI and other
Mm.
things. Um, and the example I give is, there was a lawyer in the US that used AI to write their brief and cite cases as examples to present to the judge. Well, AI did exactly what he asked it to do, but it made up cases that it cited.
Oh no.
He submitted it, got in trouble, got fired, I think lost his bar license, right? The ability to practice in a court of law, um, because he did not verify what
Mm.
AI had written for him. So trust but
Right.
verify everything. And then my final point is, have a disaster plan. Know everywhere that you're leveraging AI. And it doesn't mean that Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to be coming after you if you use AI wrong, or if we, sort of move too fast. But there are, reasons why we might need to take one step back as we take two steps forward.
Mm.
And knowing where your AI applications are, knowing how people are using AI, having that centrally documented, really allows you to have that disaster plan so that you can step things back as you go along.
Mm.
Those are the 9 AI first leadership thinking principles.
That's fantastic. I've made notes as you've been talking. A lot of people start with the ethical
Yeah,
concerns first, particularly in education, because we're keeping kids safe, keeping data about the kids safe as well, and wanting to
yep.
use it for good purposes rather than exposing it to the world. I'm glad that you brought that up. It's right in the middle of all the other interesting stuff. I don't find it particularly interesting, but I find it really important to think about the ethical. Have you seen some scenarios or situations when people haven't considered safety and what they use and what they display and show or share in AI?
So what I have seen examples, and some of the problems come from people honestly not understanding what AI can do and what it does. And I don't have great examples that I could probably share specific to like academia and education, but um, going back to the fact that it is a tool, and tools can be used for good, tools can be used for bad. The best example is that, here in the US, there are a ton of robocalls, right? The automated phone calls that went out using, President Joe Biden's voice, and it wasn't actually him. And that brought up a lot of questions about the ethical responsibility. It was done by his campaign. It was done with, dollars that went to this person. I think it also happened with Trump as well, but it happened first with Biden. So therefore it was it made some news, but it was hailed as a perfect example of being unethical because it wasn't actually Joe Biden. It was somebody that made up a script and made it sound like Joe Biden. So, you know, imagine all the different things that are possible when, being able to deep fake, or being able to spoof someone, or being able to
Hmm.
mimic their voice is now literally in the hands of anybody that has a computer and internet access.
Hmm. We were having a teachers planning and training meeting that I was doing in a school, great school in Auckland, New Zealand, and we were playing with, I think it's called Cynthia, with lots of different voices, and we had Snoop Dogg doing Dr. Seuss. It was just awesome and had all these different voices. So I thought how incredibly engaging for the students to write some poetry and have Snoop Dogg do it in a clean version would be
Right,
real, a lot
right.
of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great example. Yeah,
So tell
absolutely.
us about Generation AI.
So there's kind of two, I think, parting thoughts that um, excite us and scare us at the same time. Um, and I want to end on the positive note of Generation AI. So the one thought that as you're thinking about AI and the future of AI, there's a concept called quantum computing, and it is using computers that are, many times faster than a regular computer. And the way that I describe it is where a regular computer operates like a light switch, and every data bit is a one or a zero, so it's on or off. Imagine if you had a light switch that went up, down, left, right, up corner, down corner, this corner, that corner, and you now create, you know, 8x, 8 times the ability to do things with one bit of data. You now have this speed of computing that, is unthinkable. And the example is that a password that is a very well encrypted password that would take a normal computer 2 years to decrypt takes a quantum computer a matter of minutes.
Mm.
So imagine right now, the biggest limitation to the development and the advancement of AI is the processing power. It's the limitation of the computers, the servers, the chips, which has made NVIDIA a household name these
Mm.
days. Imagine when the power of AI and the power of this quantum computing come together and have a baby. It's going to be a complete game changer in how fast AI adopts, how fast AI will advance AI,
Mm.
and all the possibilities that it could bring. So just that's sort of one thing to, as we're educating, as we're learning about the future of our students, the future of what we can bring, keep an eye on quantum computing.
Mm.
But the last key point, going back to generation AI, and this is something I've been sharing for a while. In fact, there was a documentary, we're hoping it gets picked up by Netflix, but there's a documentary that was done about AI. I was one of the people that is interviewed, and the reason why is because of Generation AI. But imagine that people who are entering the education space, whether they are 5 years old, 15 years old, 25 years old, people in the education space who know how to think AI first, they're going to be better at asking questions than any of us, because that's what a prompt is, asking questions.
Mm. Good
Generation AI
point.
that is going to think about things from an AI first mindset. The millennials had the internet from birth, and so therefore, or from the time they could really do things with a computer or thinking, and so it was really embedded into their DNA. Generation Z is, social media first, right? Everything has been, social media since the day that Generation Z was around. The next generation, Generation AI, will live in a world where they've never had to calculate anything on their own or write content from scratch. Their
Mm.
job, role, their capability is asking the system and knowing what to do to ask the system the right questions, which is going to probably make them much smarter than the rest of us. Because when we know the right questions to ask, and we have an unlimited fountain of information that can answer those questions for us, we are unstoppable. And
Mm.
this next generation, Generation AI, has the hope and the promise to get us there.
Amazing. Brett, thank you so much for your time. What's the best way for someone to reach out to you, connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Brett Schklar, BRETTSCHKLAR. But also my company is Grow Powered. So you can reach out to me at Brett, BRETT, at Grow Powered, GROWPOWERED.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet. Thank you very much.